because of the high level delegations are around. And that's a good thing actually. We are lucky enough to at least know how the high level delegations are roaming around the Dubai for climate change meetings. So once again, welcome all. Today's second session is on climate finance, and we have a very good eminent speakers over here. I introduce Dr. Sanjeev Singhal. He is a former president of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Uh, this introduction is a little less to him actually. As a person, he is passionate about sustainability, green environment, and he is trying to change the policies which are already protected by SEBI, or in common language, I can say Sanjeev ji is instrumental to give the knowledge to the grassroots chartered accountants about what NGOs are doing, what is the sustainability, and how the social audit standards can be changed. So, welcome Sanjeev ji in this session. You have a second panel member, Mr. Kishor Rajhansa. From the Global Carbon Council, and I think he was working in UNFCCC, so he's acquainted with all this scenario all the time. But still, he is tired today because the whole detour has. It's like coming to Pavilion today. It's like I went to Pune and came back. It's as long as. So welcome Kishorji. We are here to hear your thoughts on climate finance, which is a very interesting topic and heartthrob of every NGOs. So please welcome. Come and take your what to say stage. Presentation is there.
Thank you, Dr. Vinita. Thank you for giving this opportunity to me. Here I am representing the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. I see Jyotsna also from India. So basically, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is the governing body of the Chartered Accountants in India, and it has more than 40 overseas chapters and presence in 80 plus countries, and we have 400,000 members and 850,000 students, and is the largest professional accounting body for the chartered accountants in the world. I also run an NGO. So when Dr. Vinita mentioned about NGOs, so I understand that what we need to do on the ground. CA Parivar is the NGO which I run, and there we do the social service. During COVID, we ran from pillar to post for people, providing ambulances, oxygen cylinders, oxygen concentrators, medicines, and now we are taking care of education of 214 students who are doing chartered accountancy, making sure that they realize their dreams. So in a way, we are contributing to Sustainable Development Goals achievement. At the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, we have formed the Sustainability Reporting Standards Board. And only last month, our board was given the Best Board Award by the UNCTAD in Abu Dhabi, close to this place, where we got the highest marks among the 70 countries in the world who applied for that award. So we've been taking significant steps, whether into sustainability education or reporting or assurance or building the social audit standards for the social impact assessments. Here I'm going to talk about the climate finance, which is so very important. With this morning itself, our Honorable Prime Minister in his interview has also talked about the need for the climate finance. Yesterday he arrived in Dubai and he was greeted by a very large gathering of Indians. And now, if you really see, he has straight away talked on a number of issues including climate finance. Let us understand what is climate finance. In a layman's language, it is any other finance. However, this finance is given to address the climate-related challenges. For example, the energy that we use, say for example in our vehicles, is basically a fossil fuel-based energy. If we need to replace it with electric energy or with hydrogen-based fuel, we need to invest money. And somebody who develops these technologies have to spend a lot of amount to start. If he gets the finance at the same rate, usual rates, his cost of doing business will be very high, and he will not be motivated to develop those technologies. Take another example. Somebody has a cement plant, and we know cement is one of the largest emitter of carbon. Or talk of the aviation sector, where again the carbon emission is very high. If you want to replace that energy or the power which is used in a cement plant, or or for example, in the aviation, if you want to replace the fuel with the sustainable aviation fuel, there is a lot of investment which is required. And if that investment comes at a normal price, first of all, if that investment does not come through, or if that comes through at a very high price, then no one will be interested. Leave aside the client, they will say we have to pursue our business goal. I'm sorry, this is not doable for us. If everybody starts thinking in those lines, then probably in next 20, 30, 40 years, or maybe next 70, 75 years, this planet will cease to exist. By 2100, maybe half of the human beings will be lost, half of the flora and fauna will be lost. So climate finance is very essential. Basically, it is guided by the principle of common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities. Take example, if a bank has to give a $1 billion loan, it can give to a commercial enterprise or it can give to an enterprise who is engaged in the development of the sustainable technologies or the sustainable practices. If they get that finance instead of the normal business enterprise, that is what is termed as a climate finance. So it is the same, but with differentiated responsibility tax and respective capabilities. In India, we do something like a priority sector lending. So it could be something like a priority sector lending, where banks have an obligation, say for example, say 10% or 15% of their portfolio, they have to lend for the priority sector, and sustainability should be a priority sector. And the PSL lendings are normally at lower rates. Climate finance is also influenced by the Paris Agreement, which aims to make finance flow consistent with a pathway towards the low greenhouse emissions and climate resilient development. We need to see how the final negotiation takes place in COP28 when we are here today and when the heads of the states are here and final negotiations are going to take place. Dr. Vinita mentioned it rightly that the developing countries need their share of carbon, and it is the developed country who have already utilized their quota of carbon and now pushing it to the developing economies. So it is imperative for the developed countries to provide that climate finance to the developing countries, to the least developed countries, and to the poor countries. Otherwise, we'll continue to see the rising temperature. This year, we have already seen that the highest temperature in the last many decades. And if you walked to this place, you would have felt the heat. Walking for 1 hour in this kind of a heat, you can understand what is happening. The sea levels are rising. Some of the countries, some of the islands will go under the sea in the next 3 to 4 decades if the temperatures are not controlled. We can see extreme weather events. We see a large number of earthquakes around the world. We see droughts, we see floods, we see desertification all around the world, and this is only going to increase in the future. And these have very significant cost. I was talking to a doctor and he says if you feel fitness is costly, try illness, try landing in a hospital. Now similarly, if you feel sustainability is costly, try being not sustainable. We save for our future generation, but what we are doing for them. By 15th of August, we consume annual resources of the earth. So in 7.5 months, we consume year's quota. And what happens? In a layman's language, it means borrowing from the next year, and borrowing from future, and borrowing from children. So we save for our children, but we are borrowing the climate, the earth resources from our children. Is that correct? Is it sustainable over the period? No. So there is a need to limit the increase in the temperature well below 2 degrees Celsius, and if possible, we need to do it 1.5 degrees Celsius. But the way we are going, the levels which we are thinking will breach by the end of this century, probably the scientists say, in at least in one of the next 5 years, we will breach this level of 1.5 degree. Think what will happen in that case. Now, what are the solutions? There are various solutions. This COP28 is being organized to provide those solutions. Solution is technology, solution is education, but at the end of the day, money, everybody understands money. Now, you need to motivate people. If you want to employ people into sustainable practices, you need money. If you want to develop new technology, if you want to develop new aircraft, if you want to develop sustainable aviation fuel, for example, in India, the farmers burn the stubble of the crops, which leads to a lot of air pollution. Now, when air pollution is happening, and you need to control it, you need to put in money. And if you want to ask the farmer to borrow and then have those technologies, that is not going to happen. So we need to provide money to the companies, to the businesses, to the individuals, to the NGOs who are engaged in the sustainable practices. India has recently launched a social stock exchange whereby the NGOs as well as social enterprises can raise money from that stock exchange. And it's a zero coupon, zero principal bonds, means neither you have to pay interest nor you have to repay the principal. Here I understand principal will have to be paid, but at least if the interest part can be taken care of or can be significantly subsidized or reduced, that will go a long way in basically motivating the sustainable practices. There have been a lot of challenges in the climate finance, the availability, the quantum, and also the assessment. Once you have given a climate finance, how do you make sure that this was used for the purpose for which it was given? And for that purpose, professionals like chartered accountants can be deployed to see that this was actually used for those purposes and an impact assessment can be done. For example, if the finance was given for green capex, one can do a post-review, post-implementation review, whether that was used for green capex or not. So an assessment mechanism has to be there. There are a lot of opportunities in climate finance. It will generate employment, it will generate good health and education, it will reduce poverty and inequalities, and it will protect biodiversity and ecosystem. We are working with UNDP on the nature and biodiversity elements which should be embedded in the corporate reporting for the private sector. Climate finance can foster innovation and collaboration among different actors in the sectors, which could be government, private sector, civil society, academia, etc. Climate finance, will make a lot of difference in the approach which people take to climate. The current annual flow is about 1.3 trillion US dollar for climate finance. However, we need about at least 8 to 10 trillion dollar by 2030, and rather it could be more. And right now, the World Bank Group has set a record by giving 31.7 billion in financial year 22. But what we are talking is the requirement is in trillions of dollars. The as far as the India is concerned, in India, the climate finance is being promoted. RBI is giving, our Central Bank of India is giving a lot of focus on making finance available. There's a lot of renewable energy investment is happening. Our Prime Minister gave Panchamrit in COP26, where he talked about 5 principles. We have to see what he talks today evening in this area. And there has to be a private sector participation. India is taking a proactive stance on the climate finance. The recently concluded G20 in New Delhi, India, was also a step in that direction. It gave a lot of focus on the climate finance. And basically, the energy transition is happening at a very, very rapid pace. India is building renewable capabilities. And so basically, India is taking its step. And there's a lot to learn, of course, in this area. But I'm sure together we can. Together we can deliver the theme of this COP28, and we owe it to our future generation, and we owe it to ourselves also. Thank you very much for our patient hearing. I know it's a challenge, being here and finding among so many events. So thank you for your patience. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to take them. Thank you. Yeah.
So, what I was wanting to know about climate finance is, okay, the idea started.
Mike.
Okay, the idea of climate finance is still in the initial stages. So two questions I have. Have we seen branches of climate finance actually being implemented? Have we seen climate finance actually coming into the country? And the second thing is, when do you think this concept of climate finance is going to mature? Because you talked about measurement. What are we using it for?
Yeah. So, green finance is there in India, but a lot of climate finance is not there. Green finance, I mean, if you term every green finance as a climate finance, you can say that has already started. For example, the capital expenditure by the cement sector or by any other sector that is happening, and the energy intensity is reducing. So banks are giving, but the kind of basis point reduction which should happen, that is not happening. I think in India, a good beginning may take about 3 to 5 years. Uh, India is known for doing it faster. For any other country, I might have said 3 to 5 years is a small period, and they may take about a decade. But the way the Indian government is going about it may take about 3 to 5 years. What was your second question?
Yeah, this was my second question. How long is it going to take before it really becomes a common thing?
A common thing may take about a decade, but a good beginning may happen in 3 to 5 years.
My first question was, are we already seeing it? That you answered.
Yes. We are seeing, and I give you a very small example. For example, if you buy an electric vehicle as an individual, the government is giving you subsidies in terms of lower interest rate and also giving you tax benefits. So that is nothing but a climate finance.
But from the developed countries, we have all those agreements and all have not been.
I think we will do it on our own. Given the strength of our country, as far as India is concerned, we will do it on our own. We have shown the way in COVID-19 management.
True that. Can't wait for too long.
Absolutely.
It's just no time to wait for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sanjeev.
No, thank you very much. I think it was very informative talk. Just one question about, carbon market is another way of carbon financing. Government of India's action on limiting it to domestic, not allowing level of authorizations and allowing the export of those carbon credits outside. What is your opinion about that? Because in my view, India needs that carbon finance. There is so much of climate action happening. Let the carbon market potential, international carbon market potential be used. But a recent decision by Ministry of Power on limiting it completely to domestic purposes by shrinking the market from a global to national market can really be detrimental to billions of dollars of finance flow to India. So
there are two aspects which I see. One, Indian government wants, the action to happen in India. So if the trees are to be planted by TERRE, planted in India. If any renewables to be done in India. So for the domestic player, it is being done. But yes, once we see or give the principle of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole earth has to be seen as one, and that kind of a free trade should be allowed. I think in the times to come, it will allow.
for example, India has declared the list of 13 sectors.
Yes.
Green hydrogen, CCS, and all those difficult technologies for which they need money. But what is happening that those technologies will be implemented after 2030. So you have missed the entire first commitment period, the first rating period completely. And as a result of that, billions of dollars that could have come to India would not come now anymore because these technologies would maybe in 5, 6, 7 years they will become prominent and they will be common practice. Otherwise, we have lost almost many billion dollars. India was 40% of the carbon market at once upon a time. Now, no issuances are happening, no carbon market finance flows are going to India.
So the policy makers think from their own perspective. As I said, the focus is on India, but I'm sure in the times to come, these will be opened up for the global market as well. Because it's the policy makers who should decide.
So with that, I just wanted to say
Thank you, Sanjeev. It was really informative session. In Sanskrit, we told that we always quote one shloka. उद्यमेन हि सिद्ध्यन्ति कार्याणि च मनोरथैः नहिं सुप्तस्य सिंहस्थं प्रविश्यदनि मुखे मृगः. So we have to work a lot for all these climate finance things. You were talking about the green finance, basically. And Josna, you were asking about the climate finance, which is under the Paris Agreement, which comes to India, or India is putting it or not. But I think the demand and supply rate is a real vast things over there, because the demand is higher every year going for the technology transfers and everything. And that's why the climate finance, which is putting by the developed countries as well as the developing countries, is very less. Right. So this sort of things we need to look into the matter when everyone, every industry, every person, and who are the rich countries, they need to work on this climate finance, how they are putting it as decided in Paris Agreement. So I invite Kishorji, Kishor Rajhansa from Global Carbon Council, to give some, because you are working in Arabic countries and in carbon market actually. So we need to know your perspective also about this green finance, as well as how the people from other countries are putting their efforts to make the carbon market more live.
Prepared to talk here, but thank you. I would try to. I would think about some what comes to my mind while talking about it. So markets right now. The markets were started from Kyoto times 1990s, 1997 onward, when the Kyoto Protocol came. Now, Kyoto Protocol ended in 2020, and now the Paris Agreement is on its implementation stage, and now we are talking about markets are really booming under Article 6. Article 6 has different parts, 6.2, 6.4, 6.8. 6.2 is a cooperative approach between the countries. 6.4 is a sustainable development mechanism under UNFCCC, and 6.8 is a non-market approach to raise the climate finance by the countries. And on the other side, the voluntary carbon market, another dimension to the international airlines carbon markets and the Croatia scheme of International Civil Aviation Organization. So basically airlines have taken a pledge that they would go below 2019 baseline, and they would achieve the carbon neutral growth beyond 2019. So whatever the emissions which are going beyond 2019 will be offset and will be mitigated. So looking at that, there is a huge opportunity for carbon offsets, not only mitigation, and carbon offset brings a lot of international carbon finance to the on the ground. And as a result of that, we are expecting that this three-pronged market, Persia 6.2, 6.4, and voluntary carbon market, is going to bring a lot of carbon finance never ever witnessed in the history. That kind of market that we are seeing, billions of credits that we are expecting. In fact, I am coming from Global Carbon Council. I am the Chief Operations Officer. We can see 1480 projects have been submitted to this program. Almost, I would say, 2 billion credit that we issue, almost 2 billion tons of CO2 reduction, which will bring out in next 7 to 8 years' time. To put the things in perspective, the Clean Development Mechanism at UNFCCC has achieved 2 billion credits in 15 years' time. Right? So we are talking about within 3, 4, 5 years, this kind of mitigation and potential that we see on the ground. What I see the most promising mechanism under them is the cooperative approaches between the countries. Countries are coming together, they are helping raise finance. Article 6.2 is seen as a mechanism that will make available advance payment to countries. It is not only result-based financing, but we expect that the mitigation opportunity will be identified together, and against that the finance would be provided by the developed countries to developing countries. The part of the finance would be result-based, but mostly the advanced finance would be a model which would prevail under this mechanism. Article 6.4 is mostly result-based financing, which is based on the very stringent requirements of GCC. UNFCCC is working on this area. The negotiations are going on the standards related to this. And of course, the voluntary carbon market is seen as one of the most important means of finance, because the private sector can play a big role. They can bring a lot of money on the floor to let all those sustainable technologies, sustainable solutions being implemented, which has social benefits, co-benefits, and environmental and social net no harm would be taken care of by the projects. So I'm really hopeful about the markets of the future. Looking at it, I'm anytime if you want to talk to my team from the Global Carbon Council, we can provide more information on this, how we see it, and we also for the week we have almost 13-14 events planned around different aspects of the carbon market. This case of carbon markets is becoming more and more sophisticated. More registry solutions are coming, more digitization solutions are coming, and we are trying to improve the ease for project owners and the buyer to operate in the market, taking all the complexities that are. So we are adopting the complexity, but we are trying to make the things easy for this. So Singhal have talked about the climate finance in the real terms, but what I talk about is the carbon finance, which is a specific nature of it, which is so one doesn't have to depend on those philanthropies and funds and governments and all. You can make your own money by implementing a project, selling your carbon credit, and really do good to the society. Thank you.
Yes, the concern you raised a few minutes back. Right now, Government of India is actually working on developing the rules of those trading mechanisms in India specifically. So, do you think that the domestic systems, I think you might also be following the same. So, do you think the trading mechanism which they are planning to implement is going to succeed simultaneously?
Yes, so I think my only point is that everything should happen in parallel. You cannot stop something to make other things to happen. So, international, any market for that matter, not only carbon market, any market requires expansion. You cannot restrict it. If the moment you try to restrict it, you are killing it. I mean, just simply, I would put it like that. And when I talk to several people over there, and I talk to ministries also, and the point is that you must allow the international trading to happen. You cannot have the Indian buyers who are giving you the money in the value that they deserve, that the project will not deserve. We are talking about now the international transferable mitigation outcomes. It must be sold more than $20. Right? 20, 25, 30. In fact, we have an event planned on 5th on ITMO auctions. We are talking about the money in that range, even $50. Indian buyers, if they try to buy the domestic carbon credit, they will give you $2, $3, $4 at the most. I mean, we are talking about restricting the climate finance to the country. We must understand that we cannot, in the name of domestic action, we cannot let the international finance coming to the country stop it. Most importantly, it is all about finance. One has to identify, a country has to identify what is its marginal abatement cost of the country. If, let's say, India has a $5 as a marginal abatement cost or $15 as a marginal abatement cost, let people earn $25, $30. Let the government share the benefit with them. Government creates a fund of $10, put the money into that, and then put an additional action for the country. So this is the way forward for all the countries. The countries are going ahead with the green fund, and I think sooner or less later India would also follow the same. So I'm quite hopeful as Mr. Singhal is, but I just.
I have a follow-up question here. So basically, I think last or a couple of years back, Shell has had a promise to invest 12,000 crores in India. They had a partnership with PK, I believe so. So the carbon credit generated out of the funding provided by such foreign entities means can India also claim that they have means
Of course,
in the indices?
Yeah. This is the rules are clear. When you have a voluntary carbon market, you can claim the credits under indices. At the same time, you can bring the private sector climate finance to the country. So when you are talking about Article 6.2, the letter of authorization, then you are giving the ownership of the credit to another country. You cannot claim those. But voluntary carbon market is open. But even 6.4, if you are getting $40 for your carbon credit, then have a benefit sharing mechanism. Keep $20 with the project owner, keep $20 with the government fund, and these $20 can be used for many additional climate actions in the future. This is how the
If it is purchase of credit generated in India,
absolutely. So I mean, this is for benefit of all, not only for private sector but also for creating a good government fund for the climate action. So this is extremely important. So I'm sure that somebody is thinking around that direction.
I have a lot of questions that I will discuss with you separately.
Sure.
Sorry, one question that I have is the interoperable, what we call the platform.
Interoperability of registries.
Yes, isn't that, I mean, where are we in terms of developing that? I know you are the leader in that particular field. So,
India has already, I saw sometime back, there was a tender floating around to develop the national registry on Article 6.2. Probably somebody was selected for that.
okay.
I don't know who was selected, but there is already a Article 6 database and the whole registry platforms underway. But at GCC, we are also offering now this is to all those countries, our registry as a sub-registry solution where you can actually use our registry to import, export the carbon credit to the country and use it for the purpose of Article 6 reporting to the NFCC. So this is absolutely so.
It's already in place, it's just that we can't
So, three countries taking their own approaches. Some countries are really leading the race. Some countries are exploring what to do further. And we are extending our helping hand as well by offering our registry for them to, get going with Article 6 implementation.
Nice.
I realize the conversation is geared towards India, but I joined in very late. But I wanted to ask something with respect to Africa.
Yes.
If you can help me on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There seems to be a lot of carbon transfer to Africa. If we're talking about selling carbon credits, what's the impact of this on Africa? The developed worlds the developed economies are doing electric vehicles, and they are setting up petrol and diesel vehicle plants in Africa. And Africans, we are calling it development. Yet we are invariably increasing our carbon emissions. In that case, it's invariably related to the carbon credit because we are producing more. That means we are going to incur more. So, what's your take on it? What's the impact of this on Africa? Thank you.
In the beginning, Mr. Singhal talked about common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities. This is the most important thing we have to consider. The developed world has grown through a very carbon intensive path. Yeah? And everybody has the right to develop. If you get in Africa, if a country gets diesel car plant and petrol car, it generates a lot of employment and brings a lot of revenues. We should grab it. Absolutely. I mean, I would not really call it carbon intensive. There's first minimum development has to happen, and that has to happen immediately. Then after that, one can think about cleaning it further and all that. But the minimum development has to happen. We should grab those kind of technologies and solutions in the country. Electrical vehicle doesn't mean that we are cleaning the world. Electrical vehicles operated by coal-fired grid or carbon-intensive grid is dirtier than having a diesel-operated car itself. So one has to understand that probably we are just shifting the pollution from the city to the power plant if we are doing so. So I don't see a problem. But Africa is a factory for the high quality, high integrity carbon credits for the world. Wherever I talk to, wherever we talk about the nature-based solutions, where we talk about renewable energy or energy efficiency. It's a place where high integrity carbon credits can be developed with a lot of social benefits, and it can be sent to the world, and African nations can earn millions of dollars. So this is absolutely possible for Africa to come in a very active mode to play a very active role in the carbon market. That's what I would say.
To make sure that we understand what this is. Russian almost east,